Hello and welcome, my partners in crime. Now, these 4 cases that I'm going to do, one after the other, I sort of was going to do them all in one video, but they're case updates and they're all different. So I think I wanted to do them justice, so they're only going to be around 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer videos, but I think they all deserve their own time, really. So the first one we want to talk about is the Colin Pitchfork case. Now, we've already updated that once to saying that he was going to be released. He has now been released, okay? And he is out there in the UK somewhere. He is using another name, and we'll go into that in a minute. I don't know where he is, and I probably couldn't say anyway, even if I knew. But anyway, Colin Pitchfork is now 61 years old, and he was the first person in the world to be arrested and convicted using DNA evidence. So you can follow up on his case that I've done, and then there's also the follow-up case, the update, and now this is October update 2021. And for now, until, Colin Pitchfork, or we're going to use his other name in a minute, does anything else, this is probably the last thing that we do on him. Okay, so he was jailed for life in 1988 for raping and murdering Linda Mann and Dawn Ashworth. They were both 15 at the times of their death, and it was in Leicestershire that he done these murders in the UK. He grew up in Newbold in Lancashire before marrying a social worker and moving to Littlethorpe. So that's sort of his background. Now, Pitchfork also worked as an apprentice baker, and he continued this job in Hampshire until he was arrested for the murders. Now, don't get me wrong, with this Colin Pitchfork, we know he's done 2 murders. He could have done murders before. We don't know. These are the 2 he was caught for, and he was caught many, many years later with the advances in DNA testing and everything else. So that's why he was the first man in the world ever charged under that. So he didn't give himself up. He's never shown any remorse for what he's done. He's gone in front of a parole board, and we spoke about this in the last update, and give it all that. Anyway, he first applied, I think, for parole in 2017. But he was already then starting to go outside of the prison to prepare then for his, day of release. So it's like getting them back in to society. He was seen shopping in Bristol on day release and stuff like that, going into a job centre and stuff. So he was allowed out from 2017, but his actually release date was in 2021. So I want to go on to a little bit about the victims, really, and how their families feel about this, because it's all right, the parole board saying that this man is, fine, he's safe to be released out from prison, but you have 2 murdered 15-year-old girls at this time when he done this murder. Their families were left absolutely devastated. They had sisters and, mums and dads and sisters and relatives, aunts and uncles who were devastated at this. Now, Kath Eastwood is the mother of his victim, Linda Mann, and she's also always said that he should never ever be freed, and he would always be a danger to the public. And to tell you the truth, I have to agree with her. She added that, he shouldn't even be breathing, to tell you the truth, and he should at least be locked up forever. In 2018, Pickford was denied parole and was told that he would be eligible for parole in 2 years' time. He went up for that parole, and that's the parole that we talked about in the last update. And the parole board then said yes, the hearing took place in March 2021, and he was considered whether he was suitable for release. And on 7th of June 2021, so I think we did this video, the parole board ruled that he was eligible for release. He was released on the 1st of September 2021. Pleaded guilty to both murders because the evidence was overwhelming. He tried to blame other people and do other things, but in the end he admitted it to the 2 teenage murders, that he'd committed. And he was then given a term of 30 years in prison. That was in 1988. Then it was reduced on appeal to 28 years in 2009. Some judge, some must have thought it was too long to give him 38 years, so reduced it. by 2 years. Anyway, prior to this confirmation in July 2021, the local MP, Alberto Costa, said that he had met with chief executives. He did try to find out and try to stop, as did some of the government, tried to stop this release of this man, but unfortunately that the Parole Board have their own rules and their own rules that govern around them, and he was released even though people did fight this release. They really did. And I think the reason why they did, and people can't forget these cases, is one, because yes, it's a historic case, I suppose, because he was the first man, you know, where DNA was ever used to prosecute and get a conviction. But for one of the murders, for the 15-year-old murder, the girl he murdered, Linda Mann, he had his baby asleep in his car. Now, why he was raping and murdering Linda Mann. Then he went on again to do the same with schoolgirl Dawn Ashworth. Now, despite ever showing any remorse at all, and he's never showed it. Remember, he had to fight to catch this man. He didn't give himself up. He's never shown any remorse for anything he's ever done. He walked free from prison on the 1st of September 2021. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with this country. I say it all the time. I really don't. Now, Linda Mann's sister, Rebecca Eastwood, revealed that she was convinced that Pickford would strike again. As do I, right? Listen, of course he's released on, you know, he's got, you know, a tag, he's got a report, he can't go near, you know, this, that and the other. Really? I mean, listen, you know, our police force are having a bad enough time as it is. Now, this has got nothing to do with the police, to tell you the truth, this release. This is the Parole Board, and I kept saying the onus on this is going to come back on this Parole Board in a very big way, because this man, you know, is probably likely that he will do something again. You're talking about a man, and when we talked about the case that I've just uploaded yesterday, you know, the Wayne Couzens case, where he was exposing himself in McDonald's to people, and he'd done that a few times. There's a reason why it escalated, and then he ended up murdering, didn't he, Sarah Everard. That's linked, really, to their state of mind, right? It's linked. Now, Pitchfork, sorry, he exposed himself, as he says, to over 1,000 women. 1,000 women. Meaning to shock, he wanted that reaction. It's like a power thing. It's like I'm sexually more powerful than you. That's really what it comes down to. And then he went on again now to escalate to 2 murders. What we know of, because we don't know if he's done any more, because he would never ever say. So there's all links to this. So this update, I wanted to do this update because I said in my last update that he was going to be released, and he is now released. He is now living in a probation hostel in an undisclosed location. And really, he is at liberty now to roam the streets wherever he wants to go. Okay, there's certain restrictions. He can't go back to where he murdered these girls, this, that and the other, and he maybe can't go and see his children and whatever. That doesn't stop anyone doing something to somebody else, does it? It actually doesn't really stop him going to them areas. Just got to see if they catch him or not, really. Anyway, speaking for that first time, this Rebecca did say that she just thinks he's going to strike again. Really, this family are devastated by what's gone on here. And, you know, it's right insult, isn't it, really, when you think that this man is out and yet 2 15-year-old girls that he murdered are dead and been taken away from their family. It's bloody shocking, really. So, in 1983 was when he murdered his first victim. And as I said, he had his child in the back of the car. So he dropped his wife off at an evening class before chancing upon, actually, Linda Mann as she was walking just a quick pathway through her home. So even with this child in his car, in his carry cot. His child was very young. He pulled over. He raped and murdered her. And then when he asked why he had strangled and murdered her, he said it's because she was screaming. That was his reason. In 1986, only a few years later, 3 years. We've got 1983 the first, and Dawn was the second one in 1986. And again, it was sort of on another stretch of the same footpath, really, that he murdered these two. And again, he was jailed for life in 1988 after this DNA. But the judge ordered him then to serve a life prison sentence of 30 years. I don't know why he didn't give him a whole life term, I don't know. But, 1988, he probably thought 30 years was quite a lot. And then having it reduced. So, I don't know. But anyway, he's out. Right, so the background of him, if you want to know more about the case, have a look at the case I've done on it. So now let's talk about his new name. Now, for all I know, if the man's got any sense, he would have probably changed his name by now anyway and moved on to another one. But as far as we know, his name now is, wait for it, David Thorpe is his new name. Now, I think he took on that name quite a long while ago, so I would suspect that he's not using David Thorpe now. He's probably using something else. But that was his name. Colin Pitchfork was too well recognised. He couldn't take the risk. He changed it to David Thorpe. Now they've let him out. God knows where he is. But I'm telling you now, and I agree with the victim's sister and the victim's mothers and their family and their relatives and their friends and actually the government and other people that have tried to stop this man being released, that this man will probably, or without doubt actually, commit another crime. Now whether that crime carries on to murder, we don't know. But as I've said in the first video and in the second video, and this is the third one on him, if this man does anything wrong, there is no blame that can be held anywhere else. The only blame that can be held, because we all know what Pitchfork is, or David Thorpe is, this 61-year-old killer that's walking around on our streets, the onus will lie at the door of the Parole Board. Now, my gosh, God help them, really, now, if this man commits any more crimes. But what are they going to say? As far as we was concerned, he was safe. No criminal, murderer, is safe. You can't reform someone like this man that exposed himself as a serial flasher to over 1,000 women. He's murdered 2 young innocent girls with a child in the car. This man was happily married, 2 children, working, normal life, and just decides one day to go out and kill 2 people. There's more to this man than we know. But he's out. So all I can say to you is, on the 1st September 2021, Pitchfork was out. David Thorpe is out in our streets. We don't know where he is. But women are not safe. Children are not safe. So, be careful. Be really careful. And let's hope he doesn't do it again. Okay, you know what to do. Thumbs up if you like this case. I hope you do. You hit that little bell button. You can subscribe anytime you want, really. You can catch this on Spotify, on the podcast thing I do on there. And also probably we're going to discuss this case a little bit more because of the relationship between Wayne Couzens and Pitchfork, with the exposing of themselves and the reason why, and also why this is now building up in this country where we have so many people now exposing themselves. We're going to have a look at that. So any questions or anything, get ready, because in the week we're going to come back with Murder Mornings, and hopefully we'll be answering a lot of your questions, and we will be discussing this case and much more in that. Speak to you soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.